I am not a person who enjoys cleaning just for the process of it. Of course, I enjoy seeing clean room results. That isn't really always enough to motivate me to get up and clean. But we're not tackling major organization today. Today, we're just going to be talking about 20 1-minute tasks to help tidy up your yarn room. So obviously these aren't going to be like deep cleaning things. These are just small things we can do in our yarn room to make a difference with the overall feel, tidiness, cleanliness of everything. Make it a little easier to spend more time in here. The very first probably easiest task that you can do in your yarn room that only takes a minute is going to be setting up a bin for donations. And I would suggest possibly 2, kind of depending on where you're at in your yarn stash. If you're finding you have a lot of yarns you're probably not going to use, I would set up a bin for yarn donations and then also another bin for any finished object donations. And if you just want a bag like inside of a closet or inside of a drawer, that's fine too. But I'm going to be setting a bin out in the room. And of course, when my guest comes over, I'm going to put it in the closet so she has more space here. But the point of it is that if you see that bin and it's already sitting out and you know that's like the designated home for things, when you're in your yarn stash and you're looking through things and you find a yarn and you look at it and you're like, you know what, I'm just not going to use this, you can pop it right in that bin that you know is for donation. And then that's the same way with your bin for FOs. I don't have like a lot of random FOs. I have a collection going of newborn baby hats. So I just have a bag. It's like a large Ziploc, and that's where all the hats are going so that I can just give them to my designated drop-off person in the bag. But I have that already started, so I know exactly where they need to go. The second 1-minute task to keep your yarn room tidy is going to be immediately put away any new yarn acquisitions when you get them. It can be so daunting because I have a tendency of coming in here, and especially if I film it, I just kind of drop the yarn in the box it came in or in the bag, and it sits on the floor for I don't know, a week, a month, whatever. And so then I have like a few bags piled up to put away, where if I come home with 2 or 3 skeins of yarn and I just put them directly on my shelf, literally takes a minute and it keeps the floor from getting cluttered and crowded. The third 1-minute activity that you can do, and this is a super easy one, is just take a quick sweep on the floor. And going through and sweeping won't take very much time, but it's going to get up tiny little scraps of yarn, random maybe like dog or cat hair that has floated in, and just like general bits of trash. I think that especially in a yarn room, we can get a lot of little fuzzies and floaties and wool bits in the air. So just a quick sweep and it's going to really brighten up your floors. The fourth task you can do that only takes a minute would be to just look at any surfaces in your yarn room and just see what doesn't need to be there. I've got a nightstand on that side with a lamp, and over here I've got a stack of shelves, and then of course my desk. But the bed is the catch-all for me because it's a little out of the way. I just throw things on there. So right now I've got some FOs, I've got some random bins, I've got a plant stand. I don't even know why that ended up in here. And I've also thrown up there my yarn donation sack. So the biggest area I need to clean off for surfaces is definitely going to be the bed. And there's not that much up there. It'll literally only take me a minute. But the impact that that's going to have is going to be much, much greater. Number 5, clear out any whip bags that you have laying around. Do you have a scrap yarn that needs to go in a scrap yarn bin? Do you need to take the hooks out and put them in your designated hook area? Is there trash in there? Is there ball bands? Anything like that. Just take 1 minute, clear that out, and put the whip bag away, or fill it up with the next project. That is definitely an issue I have had to learn the hard way, and I've got a video I will go ahead and link where I have some whip bags I hadn't touched for about 6 months that had been lying around and full of clutter, and I unpacked them and it was full of nonsense. So if you want to see how ridiculous I let that get, I'll have the video up here. The 6th 1-minute task you can do in your yarn room to really brighten the space up is grab a broom or a duster with a long handle on it. Check all the corners for cobwebs. So the up high and the down low. It's just one of those things. We all get them. It's not a big deal, but they definitely show up. And like I said, in a room where there could be a lot of little fibers floating around, those fibers are going to get caught in there and maybe make it look a little worse than it is. So just do a quick check for any cobwebs. Now, I don't know about you, but I am not a huge fan of taking my curtains down, washing them, drying them, then probably having to iron them and put them back up. And that is definitely much longer than a 1-minute activity. So what I'm going to suggest for the 7th 1-minute activity that you can do is to just take a hand-vac and just go over your curtains just real lightly. This is not a deep cleaning. This isn't meant to be perfection. This is just meant to get out any dust that's in there. If anything is stuck to them, again, yarn particles, anything like that, just take a hand-vac over it real quick. Freshen them up, and they'll probably also brighten up a little bit. Number 8, look around and address any random crochet books you have laying around. We might not always have a great place to store them, but I've got an area here just set up. I'm kind of using as an end table where I've stacked a bunch of my books on top of a little stool. And to me, that is just fine. Some people might not like that, but to me, it's like kind of a cute little display. So just take a look at them, group them, maybe stack them largest to smallest. Maybe you've got a great area on your desk or on a shelf you can put all of them, but just gather them all together. I think most of us, even if we have most of our yarn stored away, we do like to look at it and see our yarn. I know I usually just keep out this area you see here for filming, and I do have this area here. I do like to, especially on my hooks here, I like to change out the display every once in a while. I've tried to keep it, maybe a little bit more seasonal or what have you, but take a minute and change out any yarn displays you have. I think sometimes, even if we think whatever it is very, very pretty, our eyes get accustomed to seeing things a certain way, and it kind of just blends into the background. So take a minute, and even if it means just like taking this yarn and putting it over on a shelf and taking what was on the shelf and bringing it over here, do that, freshen it up. I have some on a little plant stand over there that's a tiny little chair, and I just think it's silly and whimsical, and it makes me happy to look at. Like, find a different container for it where you can see it. Or if you've got like the yarn cubbies that so many people have, really look, like, is there a different way you can arrange them that would bring a little more spark to you, or maybe make it more convenient? Think about switching out what you've got in the different cubbies. It is such a great way to really change the vibe, the aesthetic of it, the feeling of it, and make it feel a little fresher. And then also, like, whatever you want the room to feel like to you. Do you want it to be energizing? Do you want it to be very soothing? I mean, there's so many different things you can be going for. And for number 10, we are headed back to the windows. And I think sometimes, assuming you are in a room with windows, you might not be, but if you are, it can get a little dingy, but we don't always realize as time goes on how much that's really affecting the light and the visibility in the room. And I think we can all agree the more light in our yarn room, the better. We can see what we're doing. We can see the yarns in like a truer, like the colors will be truer when you're seeing them in daylight. So just take 1 minute and just spray them down with some cleaner. I am kind of partial to the Mrs. Meyers cleaners because I really like the scents to them, and I don't know if it's true. They're marketed like they're a little more natural and a little less chemically, but I don't know if that's true. But I like to use those, but just by a quick wipe down, your room could just brighten up a little bit more. The 11th 1 minute task you can do in your yarn room is not going to be as glamorous or as fun, and you may or may not need help. For me, I need help for this one. because I'm 5'4". But what I would encourage you to do is to take down your light fixture and clean it out. No matter how clean we are, it just seems like you can get like that little bit of like bugs and dirt, and I don't know how any of that gets in there when it's like up on the ceiling, but they seem to do that. So take your light fixture down, clean out the globe of it. If it's a ceiling fan, wipe down the blades on it, and I think you'll find your room just a little bit brighter. Number 12, if you have shelves of any kind, whether it's the cubbies or for like me, I've got a little bookshelf over there, take 1 minute and wipe down the surfaces. And again, I am going to cite the Mrs. Meyers that I have because I really, really like it, and I like how we can do like fall scents. The fall scents are my favorite, but the mint one is also one of my favorites, and it just kind of, you know, sets the mood without me having to light a candle in the yarn room. And I'm not even saying to take all the yarn off the shelves, but just do a quick wipe down of the parts of the shelves that are exposed, just to get any little dust and yarn particles out there. And I think you'll find that will really help freshen the space and make it feel cleaner and brighter again. I feel like that's just I keep saying that over and over, cleaner and brighter, cleaner and brighter. And then while you've got your cleaner out, the 13th 1 minute task would be to go over to your light switch and your doorknob and like the area on your door and just wipe that down real quick. You know, we don't even have little kids in this home. Like, we're full grown adults, but for some reason, like our light switches and then around the door just get a little bit grimy. And so I do just take 1 minute, wipe that area down real quick. If you have area rugs in your yarn room like I do, the 14th item on my list of 1 minute tasks is to take out the area rugs and shake them out outside. As I mentioned, I just have about 2 feet on either side of the bed, and then right below me here under my feet, I have one other small like 2x3 area rug in front of this vanity, and that's all there's room for in here. So I can just take those out, shake them out outside, get any, you know how it is, pet hair, yarn fibers, crumbs, I don't know, whatever, and just shake that outside. As a bonus, if you have someplace outside like a clothesline or anything like that where you can leave them and just let the fresh air kind of move around, that is even better. Number 15 is to start a whip basket or whip bin if you don't have that. For me, this has been very helpful because I have a tendency of leaving whips where they lie. So I will get almost finished, throw it on the bed, and just walk away for 6 months. So I have compiled all of them into one whip basket so that I know I can address that and see what's in there, and I know what to expect, and I can kind of eyeball how much work there is to do. But it's just a much, much neater way of keeping all of those together. And as a bonus, it also helps me not trick myself. So there's been times when I have thought certain projects were done, and then I go to pick it up because I want to show it to someone or wear it, and there's a whole bunch of ends that need to be woven in or what have you. That one is also to help keep myself focused and know what I need to finish, but also keep the room tidier. Number 16 of 1 minute tasks you can do would be to add a little bit of ambient light. So whether or not you want to just put like a little lamp, you know, maybe you get one of the taller ones that hangs over your chair so that it is shining down on you when you work there, or just something on your desk to brighten it up, or even like a set of string lights. And I always encourage you to shop your home before going out and buying something, but just some other form of ambient light to obviously give you more light, but also really set that mood in your yarn room to make you want to be in there and do some crochet. Number 17, this may or may not apply to you, but the 17th 1 minute activity would to just run a quick vacuum on your floor. For me, really just the sweeping and the shaking out the rugs are pretty good in here. If you've got a yarn room with carpet, just take a quick 1 minute vacuum. It does not need to be perfect. We We don't need to be making the perfect lines that people love or anything like that. You could even, if you want to make it a little bit easier to do this task, is if you have an older vacuum in your house or like a cheaper vacuum that isn't the main one you use, bring that one in your yarn room and just leave it here all the time so that when you walk in every once in a while and you see it, you can just hit the floor real quick and really keep up on that. The 18th 1-minute task you can do in your yarn room is quick look around and see what you have for patterns laying around. Grab them and file them. If you are all electronic with your patterns, that is awesome. And I definitely commend you for that. I like a paper pattern. I really do. I like to be able to throw it in a bag. I like to be able to take it in the car. I like to have it accessible. So for me, I have collected some paper patterns, and just having like one of those little accordion files or what have you, and just put those in however it makes sense to you to file it. But again, by having a home for it, it keeps you from just throwing it on a surface and forgetting about it for a long time. Just take those patterns, get them filed away now. Don't spend a lot of time on it. Just get them in there. Maybe alphabetical by topic. I wouldn't go by like the name of it. Like if I had an Adrian shawl, I would put it under shawl. I wouldn't put it under A, because I wouldn't think about that. And I don't even know what an Adrian shawl is. It was the first thing that popped into my head. But you get the point. Like I would just put it shawl, stick it in that category and be done with it. And then when you're in the mood to do a shawl, you can go in and look for it and maybe reorganize it. The little group of shawls, maybe in alphabetical order at that point, or whatever tickles your fancy. We are almost to the end. I only have 2 more 1-minute tasks to go through. And the 19th task is going to be to empty your garbage can. Mine fills up and then I start stacking stuff on top of it. Now keep in mind my garbage can is only like, a foot tall or whatever. Why is it hard to just take it downstairs and empty it? It wouldn't be. It really wouldn't be. But then when you have like an additional foot of things balancing on top, it does become harder. So just take 1 minute, deal with it right now, and be done with it. And the very, very last 1-minute task would be to just tidy your workstation. That does not mean a deep dive into it. It just means taking 1 minute. If all you get done in that 1 minute is organizing your hooks and putting them in a jar, that's fine. If it is just restacking the yarn that's up there, that's fine. If it is just clearing off patterns, if it is throwing away like water bottles or pop cans or anything like that, I've got my water can right here as a perfect example. But just take that 1 minute, clear off the clutter. You'd be surprised how much you can actually clear in 1 minute. And if you don't believe me, set a timer on your phone right now and just literally clear clutter for 1 minute and you'll see. So I do want to point out 2 things real super quick before you go. And the first one is going to be, these items are not necessarily limited to 1 minute. You can clearly spend more minutes than that. If you wanted to spend 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes even, you could get so much accomplished. I just think it's easy to look at things in very small, doable amounts of time, and something that you won't get overwhelmed with. And honestly, if you spent only the 20 minutes just doing 1 minute for each of these things, you can literally just set your timer on your phone for each of these things. And I will list them in the description box as well. So if you were to want to just, like print that out, print screen that or whatever, or leave it up on your phone. But if it was me, I would need it on paper sitting next to my phone so that I can have my timer going and see the list to check off. That's just me. I'm not inherently organized. I need assistance. But by spending literally only 20 minutes doing those 20 things will have a massive effect on the overall appearance of this yarn room. Think about the impact you could have if literally once a week, you came in and did those 20 things. Now, I do want to suggest this because I have gone through time periods of my life where I just feel more capable than other times. And I think I have definitely been hit with burnout a few times where the thought of spending 20 minutes cleaning just feels very daunting and overwhelming and kind of not possible. So what I want to suggest is, if you are in a spot like that, or if you feel like you're vulnerable to being pushed into that, where you feel like I'm pretty close to burning out and I'm afraid if I push myself, I'm going to burn out. What if you just did one of these activities per day for 20 days? That would still get you so far ahead of where we often are, where, like, for me, I tend to wait until things get really cluttered and messy, and then I have someone coming over, and that's what gives me the motivation, the hyper focus to come in here and clean it all. But it would be so much easier on myself if I did one of these things a day and spent only 1 minute on it. I mean, I love my yarn room. I love being in here. I love the stuff I have in here. So I feel like even in like my most difficult mental states, I feel like I could still pick something from this list that just takes a minute and do it. You know, whatever is the least of an obstacle, if that makes sense. If you have any other tips, I would love to hear them down in the comments. If you've got another 1 minute activity or even a 2 minute activity to help keep your yarn room nice and tidy, I think that would be great. And I think we would all benefit from that very much. I appreciate you spending time with me today and giving me this opportunity to talk about yarn with you. Bye.